What's up, everyone? Big Kev back in the building. Today we're checking out another one from the Fat Electrician. This one's called the Doom Turtle, America's only super heavy tank. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's check it out. All right, always excited when there's a new Fat Electrician video that comes out. So let's see what this one's all about.
Sometimes I like to read several books, get in contact with historians that are experts on the subject, and make a pretty serious video. And other times, I like to get completely unhinged and rant about some stuff that I think is funny. And by sometimes, I mean today, right now. Today we're talking about my favorite tank, ladies and gentlemen, America's only super heavy tank, the T-28, aka the Doom Turtle.
What a name. That's a monster of a tank.
Now, I said this is my favorite tank, which is a completely unquantifiable metric. Despite that, somebody in the comments is still going to tell me that I'm wrong. So if you think I should have a different favorite tank, go ahead and tell me about it in the comments below, and maybe I'll do a video about that one too. Okay, and just to be clear, when it comes to me and things like tanks and planes and guns, favorite is not the best, it's not the most impactful, it's not the most historically relevant, it's just the coolest / dumbest one around, and in my opinion, this is it. All right, the Doom Turtle. It is a World War II era tank that was designed for one reason and one reason only, and that is to punch through the German Siegfried Line. If you don't know, the Siegfried Line is Germany's western border where they have essentially tried to fortify it to make it impenetrable to the Allied forces approaching so that they can't break into Germany. It is approximately 400 miles of concrete pyramids known as Dragon's Teeth, making it so tanks and other Allied vehicles can't pass through. Then on the other side of the
crazy line
Teeth,
to have set up.
other things that were meant to stop foot soldiers like moats, barbed
Imagine having to
booby traps, and on the
set
other
up
side
all
of those
400 lines of that back in the day. Oh my god.
Machine gun,
what
mortar, and artillery positions that were going to, in theory, be able to mow down any ally trying to advance through those obstacles. Now, the American military and government knew about the Siegfried Line pretty much the entire time because German propaganda told them about it, and they portrayed it as completely impenetrable.
Maybe not completely.
So the American military in 1943 is like, okay, we're going to come up on the Siegfried Line eventually. Let's go ahead and get a plan in the works on how we're going to address it once we get there. Now, clearly, that plan should not rely on tanks, right? I mean, that's kind of the Siegfried Line's entire MO. It was designed, built, and implemented with the sole purpose of stopping tanks. We should probably do anything other than use tanks, right?
It seems like its only purpose.
Wrong. American engineers
everything
got
else seems like I could
built
get
an
past
impenetrable
that.
tank fortification, and they're like, fucking bet, we'll see about that. We're going to build a bigger, better tank that's going to drive right fucking through it. So the engineers got to work. This is called the AT project, and what they came up with was, surely there's spots along the Siegfried Line where the German military has a gap where they can drive their vehicles through, right? Has to be there. They can't just have 400 miles and they drive all the way around. There's got to be points where you can pass through it. And obviously those points of passage are going to be the most fortified positions, right? They're essentially going to make a fatal funnel, a choke point, where all of the Allied forces have to try to go through a narrow passageway, and on the other side, it's going to be loaded with German 88 anti-tank
pick
guns,
them off,
German
one by
artillery,
one.
machine guns, mortars, everything. They're going to be able to slaughter anybody that tries to make it through that little tiny narrow passage. To which the American engineers are like, cool, obvious solution. We're just going to make a tank that can't die. Okay, it's going to be so heavily armored that there's no anti-tank weapon or artillery piece known to man that could kill it. Then we're going to put a gun on it that's so big that it can shoot through concrete bunkers and take out the enemy. We're literally going to drive this gigantic, heavily armored tank directly into the enemy choke point, stand there, take all their anti-tank fire, be untouchable, and then we're going to return fire and kill them first. Okay, do you understand how gangster that is? This is the ultimate
super
dad
gangster
dick maneuver. Just straight up like, I know exactly what your plan is. I know what you want me to do so that you can beat me. I'm going to do it anyways, and I'm still going to win because fuck you. So they made the Doom Turtle, the T-28, America's only super heavy tank. This thing is 36 feet long, 10 feet tall, and 14 feet wide. It has 12 inches of armor on the front, and it's weighing in at 95 tons. Okay, approximately 210,000 pounds. Okay, the human mind can't comprehend how heavy this tank actually is. It literally weighs as much as a blue whale, which also isn't helpful because most people haven't seen a blue whale. Okay, so it's
no, we haven't.
Calculator. Toyota Corolla is like 3,000 pounds. Okay, it's like 70 Toyota Corollas, okay? This entire thing is like an entire parking lot, got a gun strapped to it, and now it's coming to kill the enemy. Speaking of gun, they went with a 105mm gun, okay?
An entire parking lot with a gun strapped to it. It's a pretty good analogy. I like that one. That'd be pretty terrifying to see, too, when you're on the other side of that. Like, nothing we can throw at it's going to make a dent. We're pretty much screwed. There's nothing we can do at this point.
Okay, that is field-grade artillery. This is literally a howitzer that they strap to the front of this metallic blue whale. Okay, if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, I'm trying to tell you this thing is basically the Narwhal of death, all right? Which raises the question, why on earth did they go with the Doom Turtle and not the Narwhal of death? Well, it's because this thing's slow as shit, which is really the downfall of this tank, because somebody...
I mean, if it's going to be the same size as 70 Corollas, I don't think it's going to be moving along speedily anywhere. That's a lot of mass to move around.
Basically said, hey, we're going to build a 200,000 pound tank, and then we're going to put the same V8 engine in it that the M4 Shermans have. Yeah, the Doom Turtle is rocking a 500 horsepower V8 Ford engine, okay?
I'm surprised that's even able to move it.
For the record, if you don't know much about engines or horsepower, Dodge is out here making minivans with 1,000 horsepower that weigh 5,000 pounds, and the DoD thought it would be a good idea to stick a 500 horsepower V8 inside of a tank that weighs as much as a blue whale. Okay, the Doom Turtle's coming at you at the speed of mock potato. Pedal to the metal, balls to the wall. This thing maxes out at 8 miles an hour. So clearly they're going to have to transport this thing all the way to the Siegfried Line, right? If they land this thing on a beach in Normandy and let it drive all the way across France, it's going to take like 3 years to get there. And this is actually why the Doom Turtle has that unique look of having 4 sets of tracks instead of just 2 very wide sets of tracks like a normal super heavy tank would. And that's because those 2 outermost tracks come off and separate from the Doom Turtle, allowing it to be easier to transport both, because now the Doom Turtle isn't as wide. And
that's a smart way to transport it a little easier.
And it comes apart in 3 separate chunks, making it all weigh significantly less than the original 95 tons. So they've got it all.
Yeah, otherwise, how the hell are you going to move it over land? You know, I mean, what kind of plane is going to be able to hold that kind of weight?
Figured out, and by 1945 they start manufacturing these things. Originally they're planning on making 25 of them. They figure that'll be enough to punch through the Siegfried Line, but they build 2 prototypes first. So they get those prototypes built, then they're testing the first one, and the V8 engine that's trying to move 200,000 pounds obviously catches fire, burns out the entire inside of the tank. The entire thing is essentially a total loss.
Makes
and
sense.
while that was going on, the Allied forces managed to penetrate the Siegfried Line. How on earth did they do that without the Doom Turtle, you ask? Well, A, the Siegfried Line wasn't really all it was cracked up to be, according to the German propaganda. It definitely was not impenetrable. It was undermanned. It just wasn't as good as it was made out to be. So they just went and they sent out recon, and they found a couple of spots where they weren't well covered by like artillery and machine guns and booby traps, and then they just put a bulldozer out and pushed dirt over the top of the Dragon's Teeth, and then drove right over the top, got behind enemy lines, and
yeah, that's pretty far from impenetrable if you were just able to like throw some dirt over it and then just ride over it.
took everybody out. Yeah, the Germans spent God knows how much money and man hours building this 400-mile stretch of concrete booby traps, and they got outdone by a couple of rednecks with a bulldozer. So because of that, the Doom Turtle simply just wasn't needed anymore, so they stopped the project.
So basically both sides, they spent all that money on that defense, and then we spent all this money on a tank to defeat it that we never actually really needed.
Was one surviving prototype. They gave that over to Aberdeen Proving Ground, and they used that basically as a giant weight to test transportation equipment because, well, it was the heaviest tank they had, and if it could move the Doom Turtle, it could move anything else, so they used it for that.
At least it had some kind of use to it.
One day, somebody just parked it in a field, and everybody forgot about it. A little while after that, people started asking questions. Historians, the public, museums, like, hey, where's that badass tank? We want to preserve it. We want to save it. It's a part of history. We want to stick it in our museum. Let me have it so I can take care of it. And the Army's like, I don't know, bro. We lost it. Okay, now on one hand, to be fair, I'm pretty sure I know exactly how this happened. They just had a couple of dudes go park it. They made it take all day. They parked it off in a field. Those dudes retired. They left. They moved on, and then nobody remembered where it got
Use
parked.
a tank.
Okay, I'm sympathetic to that. I understand how it happened, but on the other hand, how the fuck do you lose a 200,000-pound tank that there's only one of?
How did no one else find it and alert anyone that there's just some random tank sitting in a field?
I would understand if you were like, oh, hey, we misplaced a Sherman tank because America made 50,000 of them, right? But no, this isn't a Sherman tank. It's twice the size of a Sherman tank, and there's only one of them, okay? You
so
could
much
park
bigger.
it in a parking lot full of tanks, and you would still be able to find it. How on earth did you manage to lose a blue whale with a gun attached to it, okay?
Dude, where's my car? Where's your car, dude?
Fitting clip.
Where's my car?
So that's it. It's just gone. It's MIA for the next 27 years. Nobody has any...
Oh my god, that's how long it was lost for? 27 years? They weren't able to track it down? Oh, that's wild.
clue where this thing is at. And then one day, some hunter is out in the woods near a military base hunting, and he's like, hey, there's a fucking tank sticking out of those bushes.
They put just like this? Did they just cover it with those bushes, or those bushes grow around it or something? Because that's a crazy camouflage. I mean, you can clearly see like the gun and the tank behind it. I mean, who's that fooling?
Dude, there's your car.
Yeah, you guys thought I was being silly earlier with that War Thunder ad, didn't you? When I stuck a couple of bushes on this giant tank and pretended like that was going to conceal it. Well, history is on my side now because this bitch was incognito for 27 years because it had a couple of bushes on it. What now? So the hunter goes to the army. He's like, hey, I found this weird looking tank in the bushes. And they're like, oh shit, we've been looking for that thing. So the army then takes the tank. They give it to a museum in Fort Knox. So it's on display there for a little while. And then they decide that they're going to move it from Fort Knox to Fort Benning or Fort Moore, Freedom, whatever the fuck it's supposed to be called now. The home of the infantry. They decide they're going to move it to the infantry museum at the home of the infantry. So they throw it on the HET trailer, the heavy equipment trailer, and they tow it all the way to Georgia. While they're towing it there, apparently they take a turn too hard and it breaks the chains off the HET trailer, and the entire main cab of the tank flies into the ditch. Now, granted, it was just the main cab of the Doom Turtle, so it didn't have the two outermost tracks, which is like a significant amount of weight, but still, the main cab is 60 tons flying off your trailer into the ditch, so that's terrifying. Obviously,
that's
the Doom
gotta
Turtle
be
completely fine. The paint
scary
got scuffed,
moment.
no big deal. Get it back on the trailer, they get it where it's going. Now, here's my issue. I know for a fact that there are pictures of the Doom Turtle in a ditch somewhere in Georgia. I need those pictures. Someone has them on their cell phone.
Yeah,
this
right.
happened in like 2017, 2018.
Oh yeah, there's gotta be.
There. I know.
There's gotta
one
be
of the
photos,
drivers in that
video of
convoy
it.
took a picture of it with their smartphone. It has to have happened.
Yeah.
I want that picture for history so I can get it to the museum, okay? Get me that picture.
What are you waiting for? Chinese New Year? Go, go, go.
Sorry, so that's it. That's the end of the story. They get it to
Oh,
the
man.
National Infantry Museum, and that is where it is on display today. So in conclusion, that's my favorite tank for literally no reason other than it's completely ridiculous and I think it's funny.
Yeah.
Literally from
I
its
mean, it is a
inception,
ridiculous
was just
tank.
designed to be a giant middle finger. The enemy told America, hey, you can't drive your tanks through here, and America said,
Like, yeah, we
hold
can.
my defense budget and watch this shit, and this is the
Hold my
monstrosity
beer.
that they came up with, okay? I don't know if you can give a tank steroids or even test a tank for steroids, but if you can, test that one
Yeah,
first.
that one's on some
now, is it
PEDs.
unfortunate that it never saw combat? Yeah, absolutely. It's cool to think about if it did. However, that serves to highlight one of the most important lessons that I teach on this channel, and that is that the only thing scarier than engineers and defense contractors with an unlimited budget is a bunch of infantrymen on the ground with time on their hands, because that's what actually gets shit done. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out. Man, only the government could lose a 200,000-pound tank for 27 years, currently still be missing 6 nuclear warheads, and then
What?
tell me how dark I'm allowed to tint the windows on my
Missing
car.
6 nuclear warheads? That's a frightening proposition. I can't believe that tank went missing for 27 years, and then some hunter just found it covered in bushes. And the fact that those bushes did not do a great job of covering it. I mean, you could have definitely covered it and have been effective, but you know, that was a rush job at best. And still, 27 years, no one reported it, came across it, thought like, hey, maybe we should actually take some time to really track this tank down. Man, that's another wild one from the Fat Electrician. I love that they spent all this time and money creating this tank that basically never even had to be used because they just overestimated the enemy's defense. They could have easily just saved all of that money and then just, you know, used it for something else more important, because all it took was a simple bulldozer to defeat the enemy's line. So yeah, that was pretty wild. Yeah, let me know what you thought of this video down below in the comments. Until next time, have a good one.